Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today's program or workshop is on going further with food, specifically how to stop food waste or to at least reduce it, because our food hopefully is too good to waste. So we've got some information. This was kind of put together by the American Academy of Dietetics and Nutrition, along with the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. So kind of two different resources kind of put together in this presentation for you guys. So the whole purpose of this workshop is we often talk about nutrition and we talk about budgeting and different things like that. This workshop kind of brings those two topics together because we have a lot of food waste in this country. So we want to talk about how much is being wasted, why waste happens, why it matters, and some strategies to reduce that waste that'll hopefully save you money, because it's a really big problem, especially in the United States, and it's just continuing to get worse. Oops. Okay, so what is food waste? Food waste is just anything that gets tossed out. Most of the time, if I ask you what food waste is, you just think about the food that you throw away. But this is food waste throughout the entire process of food production. So it could be that food that gets wasted in the fields. Maybe they aren't able to harvest it quick enough. Maybe, the frost damages it. Maybe there isn't a supply for it and the farmers have harvested it but can't sell it. If you've ever been to a local farmer's market, at the end of the day, they're like, please take this, from me, because they don't want to take it back home because they have nowhere to put their food. They need to kind of sell it all or get rid of it. And some of it could be that we throw it because it's, again, maybe the date has gone bad and we think it's a food safety issue, or there's been mold or something like that, or some kind of contamination. We throw food away if we have a natural disaster and, our freezer or refrigerator stops working for multiple hours and we have it, we throw it away. So there are certain things that we can do, and there's some things that you can't do a whole lot about. We have a lot of restrictions in place as well, because I often hear people that, we've got a lot of hungry people. And then you've got these restaurants like Golden Corral who have buffets. And at the end of the night, they're just tossing that food away. Why are we wasting that? Well, part of it is safety and liability. A restaurant such as Golden Corral, or even the school system at the end of the school day, they would love to be able to take that food and give it to anyone who's hungry. But unfortunately, we're so crazy with lawsuits that a company like Golden Corral can't even do something nice and donate their leftover food for fear of getting sued in case someone were to get sick. Sometimes you have people, farmers, whatnot, that throw food away because it just looks funky. When you go to the store and you're like, wow, that's an oddly shaped, potato or something like that. It's got 3 heads on it or whatever, that it just isn't eye appealing to the consumer. And so the farmer tosses it or is unable to sell it because it looks funny. So again, all of that is food waste. So why is reducing food waste important? Well, part of it is the environment. All of this food that we toss out goes into a landfill, and the landfill can continue to build and build and build, and then we just have to build a new landfill. So we eventually run out of space, as well as if there's things wrong with this food, it could possibly cause contamination or different things, or cross species of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things, but to us, I think the reason when I talk to people about food waste and why it's important is that dollar bill, to save you money as a consumer. That's why you attend this workshop, is not that you don't care about the environment or care about feeding people and, helping people who don't have food. But, if it hurts me in my wallet, that's more incentive for me as an individual to care. So this, is not just important for the farmer to cut down on waste, the important to those individuals who are hungry, but it's important to us just as consumers because we're wasting a lot of money and a lot of time. I mean, you go and again, food waste is not even food that went bad. It's food that you prepared that, then the leftovers sit there for days. So maybe you just made too much and you toss it out. So, it took you an hour or so or even 20 minutes to make dinner last night. And then half of it gets uneaten and it just sits in your fridge. And then eventually stuff starts growing and you throw it out. That's part of your time that is wasted as well. So, and people always talk to me, the reason that they have trouble being healthy is lack of time, lack of money. So if you can solve this issue, you might have more time and more money to do some of the other things to help you be healthier. And of course, most of the food that we waste is the good stuff, is the healthy stuff. The fruits and vegetables typically are the ones that go bad and they don't have a long shelf life. So looking at our landfills, our waste stream, 21% of it is food. And you can look at the other percentages. That's the most chunk of what we throw away. It's not paper products. If you think about how much junk mail you're getting in the mail right now, especially with all of the election stuff, you think, oh, but that stuff can at least be recycled and reused. Same with plastics and wood and glass and metal and different things like that. But food, unless you're going to use it in a compost, to, have a worm bin basically and use that fertilizer later in a garden, which most people don't do. So it's accounting for almost a fourth of our waste that's in our landfills and possibly even, getting into our streams or affecting our environment. So I mentioned that there are a lot of different sources of food loss and there's a lot of different sources of waste. So, you as a consumer, you tend to think that one on the far right, that orange, I just buy too much, or I get confused about the best by, use by dates, or maybe I made food. That also happens in the food service industry too. Sometimes they have to make large portions to accommodate the public. And then they have to toss some of that out. Some of it is wasted in food prep. There's some people who use every single bit of food, when they're preparing something. Whether it's just an orange, a lot of people just peel the orange, the rind out and they throw it away. Some people will actually use that rind, whether it's putting some orange zest on a recipe, or you can even, I think I saw a recipe for like a candied orange rind recipe. So they used the pieces of it. Some people don't eat the baked potato skins. So again, that's just food, part of the food preparation aspect is you peel the skins off, you toss it away, and then you're cooking the potatoes or making mashed potatoes. So there's parts of it that you probably aren't even thinking about that is waste as well. We're considering that waste too. And then all the stores, they never know how much to buy. So they sometimes overstock stuff. Sometimes things don't get rotated around. Sometimes things get dropped in delivery. And so you've got those dented cans and, some people don't want to buy those because it's a quality issue and a food safety issue. And it keeps going on, all the way back to the farmers. I, as a farmer, I have no clue what the supply and demand is going to be for next year's season. I know that, hey, this is how much corn I planted this year, but I don't know if there's going to be, an issue where people are just going to be sick of corn next year, or there's a food-borne illness outbreak with corn. We've seen these things happen where farmers have had to toss stuff away. We've had hurricane damage where farmers have had to toss crops away because they get completely drenched with water, or even kill animals because they've been infected with water and walking around in sewage and whatnot because of the storms. So it's an entire process. So how this affects you and your wallet is because if you have a family of 4, okay, even if you don't, you can kind of figure out the math. If it's just 2 of you, divide it in half basically. But in 1 month, a family of 4 waste this much food. So I know it's kind of small, maybe you can't see it, so I'll make sure I read it to you. So your grains category, your cereals, your breads, that kind of stuff, 18 and a half pounds, okay, 1 month. 24 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables, 10 and a half pounds of your processed fruits and vegetables, like your canned products or your dehydrated products, or maybe even your frozen stuff, okay? 22 pounds of milk, 12.8 pounds of other. So that might be your eggs, your peanuts, your nuts, your beans, that kind of stuff. 15 pounds of sweetener, 8.6 pounds of fats and oils, 10.4 pounds of meat and fish. So you can see what I mentioned is out of all of this, the biggest group is 24 pounds of fresh fruits and veggies. Now the dairy group is not far behind it with 22 pounds. So that's a lot of weight. But again, even when I tell you that, when I tell you like, oh, this amount, it might not still really resonate until I tell you this part. $1,800 a year. Okay. That's how much a family of four wastes in 1 year is $1,800. Okay. That's more than our stimulus package, which everybody was, maybe happy about to get or whatever else. So, you could save that money by not wasting all this food. Okay. So even just making small little changes, it might be that you don't go, you go to the store more often so you can buy smaller amounts. Instead of getting a gallon of milk that was going to rot, like I do not buy gallons of milk in my house. Now we like milk, but I do not buy them. We buy half a gallons because I had a half a gallon recently and it was probably a week past date because that was how far in between somebody decided to have cereal. And it was like, okay, we need to, and it was only a tiny little bit, but we need to toss this little bit out. So just little changes like that. Maybe I can buy it in the smaller size. Bulk will save you money sometimes, but only if you're going to eat it. There's no point in buying, gallons of this or a 3-pound bag of apples if you're not going to eat it before it rots. Okay. So this is why it's important, is because it does affect you in your wallet. Okay. I mean, that's over $100 a month right there that you or people of family of four typically are wasting on food. So again, there's been a lot of research, especially over the past couple of years, about how much is wasted and kind of where that falls in. So there's kind of a chart here that you've got 64% of, and it includes food and drink. So like I said, it's milk, juices, whatever. 64% of that is preventable. Okay. So, I mean, we could prevent throwing that out. Now, again, looking at why we throw it out is I made too much. I prepared or I put too much on my plate. So it's not even just that I made too much. I put too much on my plate. I might have eaten it if if it was there in the original pan and I put the pan and all the leftovers together. But the fact that this was on my plate and I had been eating off of it, I'm not going to take those leftovers and put them with my rest of my leftovers. Okay. So we're going to talk about your date on your foods as well. Okay. So yes, we all hate waste. And again, not just because it's wasting us money. I think most of us just don't like being wasteful. I don't know if it's, we all grew up in that clean plate club and we always had that mindset, or, I know, my parents were always frugal with stuff too, just because their parents grew up in, in that Great Depression time frame. So you definitely didn't waste. They didn't get all the treats that we have. It was, here's a dime, go watch the local movie, maybe get you, stop at the penny store and get you a snack. I mean, money is completely different now than it was when my parents were younger. But I think we nowadays, if it's old, I want a new one. I mean, every time we turn around, somebody's getting a new iPhone. not because something's wrong with theirs, because a new one came out. So unfortunately, it's part of a generational thing. But we all hate wasting money. And I think we all hate wasting time. Food goes along with that. And we just need to kind of put that in our mind frame that that also includes food. So there are some different things that could be a little confusing when it comes to how to change. Okay. Because we do have some barriers, in front of us. Sometimes you just don't have enough information. I may not know, is this food safe? So just to be on the safe side, I toss it out. You also need to understand that it's going to take time to learn new skills, or time to prepare fresh food. So it could be that instead of making this big old batch of, food last night, I make a smaller batch. And that means that I need time tonight to make a new batch, something else for dinner. We're not having leftovers. Where if we were just having leftovers, I don't need any time to, basically heat that up. So you need time to make a new meal every night, as opposed to, cooking something and eating off of it for 4 or 5 days. Because most of us get sick of that and we end up tossing the leftovers. Okay. Some people also just have a preference. Some people do not like leftovers at all. They want a fresh meal every night. Some people prefer one type of food over another. I mean, it could be, for example, with my kids, it's very hard not to waste food when I have children in the house, because, oh, I want this much, mommy, I'm starving. And they're not a good judge of, portions. So, I try to just know you're going to get what I give you. And if you want seconds, I'll go back and get you seconds. But I know what's going to happen. Your eyes are always bigger than your stomach, especially my littlest one. She's like, I could eat a horse, basically. And then I give her, a meal, and then she's struggling to finish. Mommy, I can't. I feel like I'm going to explode. So I've learned to figure that out. So main reason that I have for reducing food waste in my family is wasted food equals wasted money, as well as wasted nutrients. So I always want to tie it into that nutrition aspect of it, is because, especially if I'm throwing away mostly fruits and veggies, that's my good stuff. I'd rather you throw away the stuff that's bad for you, throw away the candy, throw away, that kind of stuff that's really fattening. Don't throw away the healthiest stuff for you. But we always have good intentions when we're at the store. Oh, I need to do better. Let me buy some fruits and veggies, buy it in smaller amounts. And then if you got to go back because you ate all of those fruits and veggies, then do that. Okay. Just making sure you're not buying all this extra stuff if you do go to the grocery store more often. So this was a little poster back, I think, World War II. So join the ranks, fight food waste in the home. Buy to save, serve to save, and store to save. So this is, the topic of food waste has been around for a long time. It used to be we didn't have room to waste food. You split. The meals we had now used to be split among like 8 people in the family. So we need to make sure we want to keep that food still good and that we're not wasting it. So ways you can do that is toss out less. Okay. So it might be that you need to buy less so that you're tossing out less. Eat well. So if you're looking around and, like you see that fruit and veggies, and that if you don't eat that in the next day or two, you're going to have to toss it, or mold's going to grow on it, don't close the fridge and go get a bag of chips. Grab that. Okay. Keep the oldest stuff up front so it kind of jumps in your face there. Simplify our lives. Again, we don't have to have everything in our house. A lot of times we're like, well, I don't know what I'm going to be in the mood for. So I've got some cookies here. I've got some chips here. I've got some fruit here. I've got some crackers here. I've got, it's like we've got every type of food from the grocery store in our house, because you don't know when you're going to get a craving. And when you get a craving, you don't know if, what you're going to want. So you got to have everything in your house so you have options. We didn't used to have that. It was like you had one bag of chips. Now, I've got Doritos and sour cream and onion and barbecue and regular chips and, and Pringle. And it's because I've got 5 people in my house. Everybody likes something different. and they're always like eating something bag. I'm like, you still have this you need to finish. Don't go open a new box of this until you finish this. So if you're going to have different snacks, just kind of have that rule in your head. I don't start this snack until I finish this one. So, I told the kids, you're not going to open the bag of goldfish until you finish the bag of chips you got, or whatever you have. And it'll help you save money and it'll help you save time. But it's a slow process. It's not something you're just going to overnight do. It's kind of like meal planning. Meal planning is a great way to help with food waste, but they're also separate from each other. There are things that you can do together with them, and there's things that you can do separately to help with meal planning and to help with food waste. But overall, they're both going to save you money and help you be healthier. So a couple of ways to do that is smart shopping. Buy only what you need. And again, I have that word need. We talked about this with our budgeting workshops, is need versus want. And this is something that's very foreign to, I think, a lot of younger generations too, is because I still I have to explain it to my kids is, do you need that or do you want that? Because everything is, oh, I need this. I have to have this. I can't live without this. So, just thinking about what meals you're going to have this week, you don't have to go as far as meal planning, but just kind of making that shopping list. What ballpark generic ideas do you have for meal? Do you want fish this week, basically? Do you want chicken? Do you want some fruits or some veggies? Okay. Don't just buy stuff just because if you don't have a plan for it, because sometimes I my husband's better at it than because I don't care. I just he's got like meals. Well, that doesn't really go with this. I don't care. Like what were we having the other day? He had some fish or something. And I was like, hey, I've got some zucchini in there. He's like, well, zucchini doesn't really go with fish. So he's more of the palate. He's not a wine drinker, but I guess he would be like, oh, this is a red wine selection. And this fish goes good with white wine. I don't do any of that. I've got a veggie. I've got a meat. I've got a thing. I don't care if it doesn't blend together. I like all three things separately. I'm not going to shove them all together. And, so it's got different flavors. I don't care about it blending. I want to make sure, hey, we got to eat the zucchini before I toss it out, before it goes bad. So let's eat it tonight. I don't care if it doesn't go with whatever protein you picked out. I don't care if we even have a protein. So, I mean, there's things like that. We also keep a lot of stuff in our freezer too. So, so keeping fruits and vegetables fresh. So there's some things that you need to keep in the fridge. There's some things that you need to keep out of the fridge. Okay. And this kind of just gives you that list. I'm going to give you several handouts that's going to have more information, but I think most of us know, you've got the bananas and the pineapples and the potatoes and squashes. Those can be at room temperature until you cut them. And then you need to, possibly put them up depending on which one it is. Inside the fridge, those are your berries and your grapes. Basically, if it came out of the cold section in the grocery store, then it needs to go back in the cold section in your refrigerator. So avocados, pears, those kinds of things can be stored at room temperature until they get ripe, until they get to where they're ready. Then you put them in the refrigerator to stop that ripening process, so they won't go bad as quickly. Okay. Maybe doing some prepping now and eating later. So it could be that every time I open it, man, I've got a big head of lettuce. I need to take it out. I need to cut it up and put it in my little salad crisper saver thing. Okay. My little container I have. And that's going to make me later on when I go in there and I want a salad. Oh, I've already prepped it. I've already cut up the salad. So all I have to do is put it in my bowl. Where if I keep opening that refrigerator and all I see is a big head of lettuce, I'm going to, oh man, I got to cut that up and I got to wash it and then I got to store it. That's too many steps. So if I go ahead, as soon as I buy it and I go ahead and cut it up, I'm more likely to eat it later because I see it and it's already ready for me. So you can also buy them already ready, whether it's the bag of lettuce or the carrots and the little baby carrots already cut up. But some of the things it might be, if I cut this up, yes, we'll eat it quicker. So thinking about what you can do. So some ways that you can help prevent food waste. Again, I mentioned meal planning, based on the foods you already have. So you might have to go in your pantry and your refrigerator and make a list of what you already have there. And then find recipes. If you have cookbooks, if you need recipes, you can always contact me and be like, okay, Jennifer, I've got this, this, and this. What recipe can I make with it? I can try to help you do that. And then if you're missing any foods, that's what goes on your shopping list because that's stuff that you need. Okay. Don't go to the store without a shopping list like, oh, I'm running out of food. I need to go to the store. Make a shopping list. You can buy other stuff that's not on the list, but try to stick to that list. And then we're going to talk about what food product dates mean. Again, I've got a handout, but just understanding that your food is going to have a use by, a best by, it might be best before, or a sell by, but usually use by, best by, and sell by are the 3 dates. Some of them are food quality, some are food safety. The sell by date is the date that this grocery store or wherever has to get the food out of their facility by that date. Okay, the food's still okay. It's still got a couple of extra days, but that's the last day that that store can sell it. So a lot of times you will get a manager special. They'll give you a discount because they're like, hey, we got to get this out today or we're going to throw it away. So they'll knock down the price. And it's just as good as the full priced one that's sitting right next to it. Okay. The best by and use by, those are the manufacturer dates that this is the date that we guarantee, the manufacturer guarantees that your food will be at, premium quality. It's going to taste good. It's going to taste like what it's supposed to. So, if you eat these potato chips by this date, they're going to be the freshest, they're going to still be crisp. They're not going to taste stale. Now, if you do it past the date, it's perfectly fine. It's not a food safety issue. It's just it might taste a little stale, but they're still perfectly fine. It doesn't taste nasty. It's just a little stale at that point. So looking at those dates, and trying to prevent spoilage of the food that you have, the fresh fruits, because I mentioned the fresh fruits and vegetables are the ones that you toss out the most of and the quickest. So buying only in the amount of food that you can eat or freeze within a few days. Okay. Place foods that spoil quickly right up front. So you open it, and because there's sometimes my strawberries get pushed all the way to the back and I pull it out and it's just mold all growing right through the middle of it. Okay. And I'm not going to pick through and try to find the ones without mold. It all has mold. It goes in the trash. So putting those foods up front, making sure they don't get shoved in the back. Storing produce properly. So I mentioned some of the food can be stored on the counter. Some needs to go straight in the fridge. Some needs to go in the fridge when you cut it up. Some need to ripen on the counter first and then go into the fridge. Some things don't need to be stored together in the refrigerator. So I'm going to talk about that when I show you a handout, because certain produce helps others ripen more quickly. Apples are the ones that I know right off the top of my head. They help your other foods ripen quickly. So instead of ripen, basically they help spoil your other foods. So if you have your apples in your fruit basket and you wonder why your bananas rot so quickly, it's because the apples are giving off ethylene gas, which makes the bananas ripen that much quicker. If you have, just likewise, if you have your apples in your drawer in your refrigerator right next to your lettuce, you can't keep lettuce, quickly without it spoiling because the apples are making the lettuce ripen, okay, which means rot, basically. Okay, so I'll show you what some of those other foods are in a minute. And then just get creative with your leftovers. Again, don't look at this as just, oh, it's leftovers. Can I do something with it? If you had leftover chicken last night, can I put that into a soup or a salad or a sandwich today and make a completely different meal? Maybe, if you had a big old steak, you could cut up, some of your stuff into smaller things. It can be toppings on a salad. It could be toppings, on oatmeal or rice or something, or stuff it in a tortilla, make a wrap out of it. You can make a taco and put some extra veggies on it. You could use some of your veggies in an omelet tomorrow morning. You can make a breakfast burrito with a tortilla and roasted veggies in this. So there's a lot of different meals that you can make. So just get creative. And if you need help or suggestions, like, I have a really problem with breakfast, or, good ideas for using leftovers of this, ask me, what can I use my leftovers, and tell me what the leftovers are for. Okay. Being mindful of your portion size. Again, Sometimes we're just throwing it away because we cook too much. Sometimes we're throwing it away because we just put too much on our plate. Maybe I cooked enough so I would have leftovers, but I put too much on my plate right now. So if you go out to eat, ordering smaller sizes of food, you can order an appetizer, order a kid's meal, or order your normal meal and go ahead and take half of that and put it in a to-go box. So that's a leftover meal tomorrow. Because a lot of times we just eat and we eat and we eat, and then we feel so stuffed, but we still have maybe like a third or a fourth left on our plate. It's not really enough for a whole nother meal, and we don't feel like taking it home for a snack. So we just toss it, or we leave it at the restaurant and they toss it. So if you go ahead at the beginning of your meal and cut and put half away, then you know you've got at least enough for a meal tomorrow there. So go ahead and ask for that to go container at the beginning of your meal there. Um, learn how to can or dehydrate or freeze food. I didn't put or freeze food at home. So if you got that leftover, specifically fruits and veggies, since that freezes, a lot of those can be canned or frozen. If you need information about that, we have that as well. I mean, you can freeze milk. I mean, you could freeze, technically you can freeze eggs. I mean, not necessarily just in the shell, but there's different ways that you can freeze some of these things if for some reason you have a lot of leftover food. I mean, naturally, all your meats can be freeze. You can put bread in the freezer. So, I mean, there's so many different things that you can freeze or can or even dehydrate. You can donate any extra foods that are still safe to eat. So any of those canned foods, because I know sometimes we buy something and I'm like, I plan to try this new soup, but I'm just not feeling it. So let me donate any of that. That's perfectly fine. Or again, if you are interested in composting, so that's basically you just got a bin with worms and soil and leaves and stuff like that, and you just throw in your leftovers, any of your stuff that can be composted, that biodegradable. Basically, the worms eat the food, and then the worms go to the bathroom in the soil. Then you have nice, beautiful fertilizer that's got a lot of good nutrients in it, and you can use that fertilizer for your garden. So if you do like to garden and you're always having to go buy bags of fertilizer or something like that, you can just start it very easily. You don't have to mess with the worms. I mean, basically you just buy a container of worms and get a box of soil and dump the worms in, and they do their thing. You just give them food and they do their thing, and then you can use that. So we've got a lot of information on composting too. And our horticulture agent, Johnny, he would probably be the best one to give you a lot of that information, but it's really easy. I mean, we even do it with 4-Hers. So it's something anybody can do. And it saves you money on soil, gives you something to do with your leftovers or your remnants there. In fact, when I'm at the office and I'm doing a food workshop, I have a volunteer who comes and helps prep some of the food. And she always takes any of the remnant, the leftovers, any of the little extra peelings or whatever she the stuff that she cuts off or separates, or piece doesn't look good, she takes all of that and she takes it home and she puts it in her compost bin. So even our extension office, we try to do our part and not wasting, and we provide that for somebody who does have a compost bin. So we want to issue the food challenge, food too good to waste challenge. So basically it's kind of over I think a 6-week period basically, but for week 1 and 2, find out how much food your household wastes. Okay. So just kind of over the next week or two, you can calculate it as, I threw 2 apples away. You can weigh it if you have a kitchen scale. You can just whatever, just a ballpark. You can put money dollar, amounts to it. Like I know apples were $1.29 a pound and I threw away 2 of them and they weighed about this pound. You can figure out however you want, but it's just to get an idea of how much. Even if you just make a list, tomato, zucchini, it doesn't have to have a dollar amount, just what it was. And then you do that for about a week or 2. And then the next couple of weeks after that, pick a strategy. I've given you a lot of different things that you might be able to do, but pick a strategy that you're going to try to tackle and test them out over, a period, maybe 3-4 weeks. This week I'm going to try this strategy. This week I'm going to try this strategy. Still, still record the amount that you're wasting. Have you noticed a decrease that, hey, now I'm throwing food away less, or I'm throwing smaller amounts away? And then, in end of week 6, you can kind of take that and put a dollar amount to it, is figure out, okay, how much of that, is money. How about how much money did you save? So just a little bit of math and a little bit of, recording or calculating what you might have saved would, again, save over a year. If this is just a couple of weeks, over a year, how much money could you possibly save? So hopefully you're not one of those people that's wasting $1,800 a year by throwing your food away. So that's the end of this presentation. Again, I've got a couple of handouts I'm gonna go over with you before we call it an end to the workshop. But again, this information was kind of put together from some of the materials from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Association, and our agency, and the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And their resources can be found at eatright.org. If you're interested in more about this. This was their theme 2 years ago during National Nutrition Month, was tackling food waste. If you need any more information, there's my email, as well as we're always putting information on our Facebook page, recipes, upcoming workshops, whether it's with us or someone else, local events in the community, as well as just interesting articles and videos, whether it's food demos or just how to do this or that kind of stuff, on our Facebook and our Instagram. And that is how you find us, at Person Granville FCS. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to share a different one. So let me stop sharing this one, and it didn't want to pull up. Okay, let me pull up close this one. So again, hopefully you got a couple of ideas, but if not, I've got a couple of handouts. I'm going to show you a couple of handouts. But I've got several that I'm going to send you, because again, there's a lot of good information. Some of it is a little repetitive from one to the other, but this one had a good resource that this one didn't, or vice versa. So this is from the University of Vermont Extension. So that's why it's a tip sheet for Vermont residents. But again, it's for anyone. It's not, the tips aren't only for people in Vermont could do, but how you reduced wasted food. And this is something that even it says, hey, print me out and hang me on your fridge. So it's a constant reminder. So sometimes the storage containers that you put your food in your refrigerator, use the clear storage so you can see what's in there. You can see how much it is. It jumps out at you and kind of reminds you. It's not like, what is in this? And you have to, open it up to see what's in it. You can even label a space in your fridge that's kind of the eat first space. I think I saw a picture of this. It was just a container. They had a little tub, basically just a small little container, and they just put the food in there. So as soon as and it had a little sign on the front that said eat first. So you open the refrigerator and there's your tub, and it kind of reminds you. You can keep it on the fridge door if you see that easily, whatever else. Reading your manufacturer of your refrigerator, reading that manual, because some of your refrigerators that have those food crispers, and if you put them on the right setting, it has a high or low or medium, or humidity level, that'll help your fruits and veggies stay freshest. But it depends on which fruits and veggies you put in there. So that's why you have to read the manual. It'll tell you what setting, the crispness, the humidity you need to put it on. Thinking how you can use your leftovers. So we call them planned overs. Have a plan for them before you even make the first meal. What are you going to do if you have leftovers? Are you going to be able to freeze foods? Make a menu for the week. Check to see what's in your pantry. Make that shopping list. You can use things that might seem a little old in other recipes. So for example, your wilted vegetables could be used in stir fries, in soups, in casseroles, smoothies, because it doesn't matter if it's a little wilted, because you're going to put it in a wet soup. You're going to put it in a wet smoothie. So that's okay. Using your leftover rotted kind of bananas in, banana bread, using your old apples in applesauce. So, I mean, there's different things you can do. Um, Making sure that you're using your fridge appropriately. So again, typically you store your non-perishables in the door because that's the warmest area. Your bottom shelf is your coldest area, so that's where you get your kind of your meat and your eggs. And then your middle shelves, those are the ones that have the most consistent temperatures. They don't vary too often, so you put your perishables there. I mentioned the crisper setting, so this handout has that information, but again, always just read the manufacturer's information of your particular fridge or equipment that you have. But the high humidity setting is for vegetables and fruits that need a lot of moisture. So it's got a list there of those. And the low humidity is for the ones that aren't sensitive about moisture and those that produce that ethylene gas, the ones that help other things ripen. So your apples, your avocados, your mangoes, your pears, your kiwi, your lemons, and some of your summer fruits, some of your summer fruits need to be on the low humidity setting. So you don't put the ones that are in that low humidity setting with the ones that are in that high humidity setting, because those apples, those mangoes, those avocados are going to ripen your broccoli, your leafy greens, your zucchini. So you need two separate drawers for those, or at least put, if you only have one drawer, put one in a drawer and the others put somewhere else so they're not making them ripen. Okay. And again, they even have a link here about composting. I think that link is specific to Vermont, but we have that as well too. Handout here of how you can keep produce fresh longer. Okay, so again, just a reminder that Americans, it says about 19% of vegetables and 14% of fruits they throw away. So we want to cut that down. And then this is where to store them and where not to store them. So again, the ones that need to be in the refrigerator, the ones that don't need to refrigerate. Some of them you do need to separate so your potatoes don't taste like onion or garlic. And then these, instead of showing you, it doesn't say ethylene gas, it calls them gas releasers, and gas sensitive is what this handout calls them. But the ones with the ethylene gas are the gas releasers. So those are the ones you want to store separate from some of the other ones, okay? You can, it uses an example though, that if you want to ripen, you get a peach and it is so hard, yet you really, really want to eat a juicy peach, you can use that to your advantage, that a peach releases ethylene gas. So put it in that brown bag. You can put it in there with a ripe banana, and that banana will help the peach, and the peach, whatever, and it releases the gas, but the gas has nowhere to go except in the bag. So it helps the peach ripen itself. So if you're ready to eat that peach. So that's just, again, I will send you this. A lot of people, I throw away lettuce all the time. That's because it's sensitive to the gas, and you probably store your lettuce with one of these other things, unfortunately. So don't purchase things if it's already got something wrong with it, okay? If it's got a mold or bruise or cuts or something like that, because it's just going to ripen that much faster and you're gonna have to toss it out. Make sure that you've got your fridge on the correct setting. So if you've got it, make sure it's on 40 degrees or below, because if your fridge is a little bit too high, then it's not going to keep your fruits and veggies the quality as long as it could if it was on the proper setting. So that's just that handout. And I think I've got one more I'm going to show you. This is a love food, hate waste handout. So it kind of reminds you that food waste is throughout the entire system of food production, the entire food system. But the point that's important to us is that we waste about 40% of our food. Okay, we only eat about 60% of the food that we buy, and we waste it. This again can affect food security for people, budgets, natural resource, greenhouse gas, as well as wasted water. Because I think it says an apple, if you toss out, is it on here? Let me see if it's, I don't think it's on this handout, but it was something like Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, okay. Sorry, it froze and then it just went completely away. My kids are getting back on their computers for their school, so it must have just knocked me off. Um, but basically, you've wasted a lot of water, you've wasted a lot of gas just for one simple apple because the whole food production system, all the water, all the resources, all the gasoline that it was used to get that one apple to your grocery store, to your home. So it's kind of like it's wasting a lot. So paying attention to again, your labels, your best buy, your sell by, and your use by. I'm going to send you a chart as well from the FDA, this refrigerator, freezer, storage chart that gives you information about where to store it and how long you can store it as well. But if you're storing it in your freezer, always make sure you label everything that you put in there so you don't lose it, and you label what it is as well as the date. So this is a good chart right here from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that tells you, hey, this is how long you can store it in your fridge, how long you can store it in your freezer. And this is kind of best by. It's not you can't store it in there longer than that, but it's for the best quality. It's not a food safety yet. And then again, just a reminder where you store it: in the fridge, on the counter, then in the fridge, or only at room temperature. When you're cleaning your foods, you want to clean it right before you're ready to eat it. So don't rinse it, and then put it in the fridge, because you've put water, you've put moisture on that fruit and that veggie, and then it's going to help the ripening process that much quicker. So yes, this would help if you have those hard greenhouse tomatoes. If you want them to ripen, you could put them near some of the other ones that help ripen quickly, basically. But yeah, I always store my tomatoes at that room temperature. But if you're storing it next to, sometimes I've had them stored next to my apples or other stuff, and I've noticed that they will ripen more quickly. So that is one way to do it. Or again, that brown bag, the same thing with the peaches. Put them in that brown bag, and that will help them ripen. If you put something else in there, like put one apple in there with some tomatoes, and it'll help ripen quicker. So same thing with the banana. Once it's already really ripe, it's going to help other things get ripe as well. So those are the handouts that I have, and I'm going to include in my email that I